Good afternoon, you're watching 420 Central TV. I'm Rory, welcome to the show. Short intro, we had Bryon Adinoff with us in our last show, which I think was hugely informative, and nice to see the kind of effort that's happening on a global stage in terms of taking care of cannabis within the big pharma market, within the medicinal space, and within the recreational space, which is where it belongs. So we've got the tail end of that interview with Bryon, and also he gives us a really nice reference to an international sign that should be used when coming to cannabis. We interviewed Megan Stein a while ago at the expo, and this is just an add-on in that space and in support of that space. Enjoy the rest of it, and we'll catch you on the other side. If I could ask you, there's something that I think shows its head from a concern point of view. And I think you mentioned that it was in Texas. The fact that people are, so Texas is, if I'm correct, has not been given legitimate status, or it's not approved. Is that correct? Cannabis.
Cannabis is approved for medical use,
Right.
but I believe it's 1% THC. It might be a little higher now,
Okay.
but it's pretty low.
Okay.
So if you're used to using dabs here,
Right.
you'd be having to smoke all day long
I'm with you.
in order to get enough THC. And it's still limited in the number of conditions that you can use it for, the number of disorders. Again, every couple of years, they get a few more approved, but it's still pretty limited, and adult use is not allowed.
Right. But what it did bring about, which was interesting for me, was you mentioned the fact that people are now making Delta 9 and putting it into drinks, albeit at a low percentage. I think we're talking 10%, something like that. So, so you've got to have 5 or 6 or 10 of them, and that's going to have a big effect on you. So there's almost, for me, there's this acknowledgement of the fact that recreational cannabis wants its recognition, and people are finding ways of delivering against that.
Yeah, so let me clarify.
Please.
The Delta 9 is coming from hemp-derived
Yes.
semi-synthetic cannabinoids, which are, with the Farm Bill 2018, it legalized hemp. And so smart chemists figured out how to extract CBD and then turn that into Delta 9, Delta 8, and a number of other minor cannabinoids, most of which we find in hemp and cannabis plant. Some that we don't, they're new compounds, but they're cannabinoids. And so there were no clear laws against it. So it just became the Wild West, and you have gas stations selling, it's multi-billion dollars across the country, selling in gas stations and supermarkets, all sorts of different cannabinoids to kids and adults, and you don't know what's in it, you don't really know the dosage, you don't know what contaminants are in it or pesticides. So Texas, as many states are, trying to figure out what to do with it. Do we ban it? Do we try to regulate it? Right. So that's where they are.
Right.
And many distilleries have started their own soft drinks that have less. It's hemp, so it's as long as it's below 0.3% Delta 9 THC by weight, it's allowed, and by weight you can get 10 milligrams of Delta 9 in a bottle, like one of those.
Right.
That's a hefty dose
For
of
a child.
THC. Don't be, and that's in stores.
Right. Right.
But only if it was made from hemp, not from the cannabis plant.
Right. So again, just people finding their way around it. I think what is also something that many South Africans won't quite understand is the federal control in the United States versus what you have from state to state, and there's a number of states that have already been either decriminalized or they've been semi-legalized, and then you have some that don't have any sort of status. And you touched on something where you said that some people have an ability to have a voting block and they can have that changed within the law, and then some of the states don't have that facility. Would you say that it's more those that don't have that voting method that are lagging behind, first of all? And then secondly, if it's not that, what is it that's driving the lack of progressiveness within those states?
Yeah, two different questions, I think. So great question, though. So in the United States, yes, you can, some states allow the citizens to vote on issues. So some states, every election will have a whole basket list of different ballot initiatives that people want you to vote on. Other states don't allow that. So definitely the states that allow those initiatives have been much quicker to legalize medical cannabis and adult use cannabis. There's no question, if you leave this question to the people, you will get cannabis legalized. I don't know that there's any states that allow ballot initiatives that don't have at least legal medical.
Right.
And there's distinct difference. In those states that require the legislature, you have almost every Democratic blue state, more progressive states, have legalized adult use cannabis. But there's a number of red states that have not. And the legislatures are, you have your hardcore prohibitionist. They still have enough voters who perceive cannabis as evil and the devil's work and dangerous that their congresspeople, their legislators, can get enough votes from them
so
to hold up.
Driven in that space.
Yes.
Okay. And then a question to couple to that is, if so, I believe that belongs to a generational headspace, and that there's a new generation that's sort of taking on cannabis at a broader scale, etc., etc. Do you feel that those states will come around either by legislative coercion, or would there be a generational shift that will allow for that to come through? What's the future in terms of hope for those states that are currently locked in that space?
I think there is a generational difference. I think the polls show that. I'm hesitant, at least in the U.S., to make any predictions at this point, given that more young men voted for Trump in the last election than voted for the Democrats.
Right.
And that is not a direction that I think most anybody would have predicted 5 or 10 years ago. So I'm hesitant to make any predictions about how people will vote in the future.
Right.
I like to think you're right.
Yes.
But not sure.
Got you. And then I think something for me which would be an interesting concern in the United States is, what are the possibilities of there, especially with the current shift to Republican mindset, or at least governance, what's the possibility of there being a federal reversal on cannabis in the, more specifically, the adult use space?
So I've been involved in this effort to get federal approval of cannabis. It's been a rocky road. We've gotten the House Representatives a couple times now, when it was Democratic controlled, to pass the MORE Act. But it's very hard to predict. There was some movement towards to reschedule it. As I mentioned, I'm not that excited about it, because I don't think it's going to do what needs to be done, which is deschedule, not reschedule cannabis. But I don't know, in the present political environment, it's really hard to predict what's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay. It's an interesting one, and I think just for local people to understand that that's a real concern, because whilst you might have state-to-state approval and a positive outlook, you can still have a situation where the federal government or the federal authorities can decide that they no longer want it and they can reverse all good done, and I'm going to say all good done. Geez, I just want to say thank you so very much, man. To have spent the time chatting with you has been phenomenal. This will be really interesting for our South African viewers to get to see and dissect. We wish you well on your journey to Cape Town. I hope you have a thoroughly enjoyable time, and if you're ever in town again, please swing by and come and say hi. And safely on your journey. Thank you for everything you have done and everything you continue to do in the name of cannabis. Most appreciated.
Great, thank you. It's been great being here.
Cheers, man. Hey, I'm Rory. This is 420 Central TV. I'm with Dr. Bryon Adinoff again, and we wanted to do a little bit of an insert on something really important. And we've talked about this once before in an interview with Megan at the expo, and I wanted to hand it over to Dr. Bryon Adinoff just to talk us through what this initiative's about. Would that be in order?
Yeah. So this is the International Intoxicating Cannabinoid Product Symbol, IICPS, and it was designed by the founder of Doctors for Cannabis Regulation that I mentioned earlier, David Nathan. Part of what we do is to really push the importance of regulating these drugs, which means making them safe. And part of making them safe is letting everybody know if something has THC in it.
Absolutely.
And in the States, every state came up with their own product symbol, because each state developed their laws individually, and almost everyone was different, and they called it the universal product symbol. It was universal in that state, which was silly. So David designed this, and it's yellow, meaning caution. It's everyone knows a yield sign, and everyone knows what the cannabis plant looks like. And he got with ASTM, which is a volunteer standardization organization who does standardizations across everything, like United Laboratories. And they worked with David on designing this so it meets all the criteria of a international symbol, which is it has to be easily understood. So if you have English language on it, well, that can't be understood by many people who don't use that kind of lettering in their language.
Right.
We didn't want red. Some people have a stop sign, and we don't mean stop. It's not poison.
I love it.
Just be careful.
Absolutely.
And it's not green, which would be cool with cannabis, because we're not saying go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is now, it was approved by ASTM, which gave it a lot of, made it clear that it was approved by an organization like ASTM. It's now been approved by 7 states. Last week it was 6 states. Virginia just approved it. So it is, and there's many other states looking at it. And we need to be ready for when South Africa is selling its product overseas.
100%.
That what are we going to put on this?
Yep. Yep.
So it's a straightforward and very reasonable way to approach this.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. And I think this is something that we as local cannabis farmers, producers, processors need to start to get to understand is that there's a much bigger game at play. There's a much bigger opportunity at play, and these are going to become regulations that you need to be aware of, first of all, from a regulation point of view, but more so from a policy and an approach that you come to the cannabis industry with is come to it and bring your products to your audience with caution and let them understand what you're offering. So giving something like this consideration and making sure people can see exactly what you're offering, dosage wise, etc., is vitally important. And that's all from us. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the insert. We'll catch you again next week. Make sure you're stocked up and you've got enough cannabis to see you through. Ciao for now. Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. It certainly was a very nice interview for us to do, a very informative session that we had, and great to have the experience of someone that's been in the industry and observing the industry on our doorstep, visiting with us, talking to us. We hope to capture a whole lot more and a lot more people within the South African cannabis industry. And watch the space. We've got some interesting things coming up. Enjoy the rest of your week. Make sure you stocked up with some good doob. Ciao for now.